Sean Palfrey had never considered himself a conventional businessman. Born in the industrial town of Grimsby, England, he had spent years as a hair colorist, mastering the art of transforming dull locks into radiant hues. But as he worked behind the chair, listening to clients complain about their tangled hair and painful brushing routines, an idea started to form. It wasn't just women with long hair. Children, men, even salon professionals struggled with knots and breakage. The traditional brushes on the market seemed outdated, ineffective, and designed without real user experience in mind. Sean envisioned something different, a brush that would glide through wet or dry hair effortlessly, detangling strands without pulling or causing pain. The problem was, he wasn't an engineer, he wasn't an inventor. He was just a hairstylist with an idea that he couldn't shake. For years, he tinkered with different materials, different designs. He researched the science of hair elasticity, friction, and tension. He experimented with bristle structures and brush shapes, testing prototypes on willing clients in his salon. Some dismissed his obsession as a waste of time. Others humored him, nodding politely when he explained his vision. But Sean believed in his idea. He knew he was on to something. By 2007, after years of trial and error, he had finally created what he believed was the perfect detangling brush, a uniquely curved shape that fit perfectly into the palm of the hand, flexible teeth that bent instead of pulled, moving smoothly through the hair without breaking it, a tool that could work on wet or dry hair for all textures without causing pain. But belief wasn't enough. He needed money to bring the product to life. Sean wasn't wealthy. He had savings, but it wasn't enough to fund mass production. He needed an investor, someone who could see what he saw, someone who would believe in the Tangled Teezer as much as he did. And then an opportunity arose. A popular TV show, Dragon's Den, was looking for entrepreneurs to pitch their ideas to a panel of powerful investors. The dragons were known for being ruthless, for tearing apart businesses they saw as weak. But they also had deep pockets. Sean knew this was his shot. He packed his prototype, rehearsed his pitch, and walked into the dragon's den, ready to convince the world that his little brush was about to change everything. What happened next would test his faith in his idea and himself like never before. Sean Palfrey stood backstage, gripping the Tangled Teezer tightly in his hands. The bright lights of the Dragon's Den studio cast an intimidating glow over the set. The moment he had been waiting for was here. Years of work, countless late nights, and every ounce of belief in his product had led him to this point. The show's producers signaled him forward. Taking a deep breath, Sean stepped onto the stage and faced the 5 dragons, wealthy investors with sharp instincts and even sharper tongues. They sat before him, their expressions unreadable. "Hello, my name is Sean Palfrey," he began, his voice steady despite the nerves. "I'm here today seeking £80,000 in exchange for 15% equity in my business, the Tangled Teezer." He held up the brush, running his fingers over its curved shape. "This is not just another hairbrush. It's a revolutionary detangling tool designed to glide through hair without pulling, tugging, or breaking it. Traditional brushes cause pain and damage. The Tangled Teezer is different. It works with the hair, not against it." The dragons listened in silence as he demonstrated how easily the brush moved through tangled hair. He spoke about the research behind the design, how he had spent years perfecting it, how it worked for all hair types. Then came the moment of truth. One of the dragons, Deborah Meaden, raised an eyebrow. "You're saying people will abandon their regular brushes for this?" "Yes," Sean answered confidently. "Once they try it, they won't go back." Another dragon, Duncan Bannatyne, scoffed. "It's just a hairbrush." The panel erupted into discussion, but it wasn't the excitement Sean had hoped for. Instead, the dragons seemed skeptical, unimpressed. He could feel their doubt hanging in the air. "This is what I call a harebrained idea," one of them quipped, and the others chuckled. Another dragon leaned forward. "Sean, let me be honest. This is not a business, it's a novelty. I don't see a market for it." Sean felt his stomach tighten. He had anticipated some resistance, but the outright dismissal stung. He pushed back, trying to explain how massive the hair industry was, how this was a real problem that people faced daily. But the more he spoke, the less interested they seemed. One by one, the dragons withdrew. "I'm out." "Not for me." "No thanks." Within minutes, every single dragon had rejected him. Sean stood there, gripping his tangled teaser as the final dragon delivered the last blow. "Sorry, Sean, but I don't think this will ever be a success." The words echoed in his mind. He had come looking for investors, for belief, for validation. Instead, he had been laughed off the stage. He walked out of the studio feeling a mix of anger, disappointment, and, surprisingly, determination. The dragons might not have seen the potential, but Sean did. They had called it a joke. They had underestimated him. Now he was going to prove them wrong. Sean Palfrey sat in his small apartment, the echoes of the dragon's rejection still fresh in his mind. He had walked into that studio hoping for a lifeline, £80,000 to help manufacture the Tangle Teezer on a larger scale. Instead, he had left empty-handed, his idea ridiculed on national television. The embarrassment stung, but there was something deeper brewing inside him, anger, determination, a refusal to quit. If the investors weren't going to believe in him, then he would believe in himself. Sean had already poured years of work into the Tangle Teezer. He wasn't about to let a few dismissive comments define its fate. The question now was how to move forward. He pulled out his financial statements and did the math. He didn't have an investor's millions, but he had his savings. Money he had put away for a house, for security, for a future that now seemed uncertain. He took a deep breath and made a decision. He would go all in. Instead of waiting for someone else to manufacture his brush, he invested his own savings, a staggering £10,000, into producing his first batch of Tangle Teezers. He found a manufacturer willing to work with small quantities, designed simple packaging, and set up an online store. But launching the product was only half the battle. He had to sell it. At first, Sean tried the traditional routes, salons, beauty stores, hair suppliers, but every time he pitched, he heard the same words. "There's no market for this. It's just a fancy brush. People won't buy something like this online." Retailers didn't want to stock it. Beauty suppliers weren't interested. The rejection felt like Dragon's Den all over again, but this time Sean refused to let frustration take over. If no one else wanted to sell the Tangle Teezer, then he would. Sean pivoted to a direct-to-consumer model, setting up a basic website and listing his product for sale. He didn't have a marketing team or a big advertising budget, so he took a different approach. He used social media. It was still the early days of online shopping, but Sean saw something others didn't. People trusted word of mouth more than big brands. So he sent free samples to hairstylists and beauty bloggers. He reached out to magazines, hoping for a small feature, and most importantly, he made sure every single customer who bought the Tangled Teezer online had an amazing experience. And then, it happened. A small beauty blog reviewed the brush, praising it as a game changer. More bloggers followed. Then a major beauty magazine picked up the story. Within days, orders began pouring in. Women who had struggled with tangled hair for years were suddenly raving about the Tangled Teezer. Mothers said it was a miracle for their children's hair. Salon professionals started recommending it to clients. The word spread like wildfire. Sean checked his website analytics. The sales were skyrocketing. He was still far from success, but for the first time, he felt it, the spark of something big. And the best part, he had done it alone. Sean Pumphrey had spent months grinding away, doing everything himself, packing orders, responding to customer emails, handling social media, and shipping Tangled Teezers out of his tiny apartment. Every sale felt like a small victory, but he knew he was still far from where he wanted to be. Then everything changed with one email. It came from Boots, one of the UK's largest and most well-known beauty and pharmacy retailers. They had seen the growing buzz around the Tangled Teezer and wanted a meeting. Sean nearly dropped his phone. After months of rejection, after being laughed off Dragon's Den, after hearing no over and over again, finally, someone was interested. But this wasn't just any retailer. This was Boots, a company that could put his brush in front of millions of customers. He rushed to prepare. He knew this was his moment to prove himself. When the day of the meeting arrived, Sean walked into the Boots headquarters with a box of Tangled Teezers, his heart pounding. He sat across from a group of executives who eyed him with the same skepticism he had seen before. But then he pulled out the brush. He ran it through a demo model of tangled hair, showing them exactly how it worked. He explained the growing demand, the thousands of people already raving about it online, and why this wasn't just another hairbrush, it was a revolution in hair care. The room fell silent. And then the lead buyer nodded. "We'll take a trial order." Sean barely contained his excitement. It wasn't a massive deal yet, but it was a foot in the door. That first trial run in Boots stores sold out almost instantly. Customers loved it, word spread, and before long, Boots placed another order, then another, and then something even bigger happened. One of the world's most powerful retailers, Sephora, took notice. Sephora was a global beauty giant. Their stores were packed with the biggest brands in the industry, and getting on their shelves was nearly impossible for small businesses. But the buzz around the Tangled Teezer had reached them, and suddenly they wanted it too. Sean could barely believe it. A year ago, investors had laughed at him. Now, some of the biggest beauty retailers in the world were fighting to stock his product. Sales exploded. Within months, the Tangled Teezer was flying off shelves across the UK, then Europe, then America. Celebrities were spotted using it. Beauty editors called it a must-have. It won awards for innovation, beating out established brands that had dominated the market for years. Sean went from packing orders in his living room to running a multi-million-pound business. And as he watched the success unfold, one thought kept running through his mind. The Dragons were wrong. Sean Pumphrey should have been on top of the world. His Tangled Teezer had gone from a rejected idea to an international sensation. It was now stocked in Boots, Sephora, and major beauty retailers across the globe. Celebrities were using it, magazines were praising it, and social media was flooded with customers calling it a miracle brush. Sales had skyrocketed beyond anything Sean had imagined. What started as a one-man operation was now a booming business with factories, warehouses, and distribution deals. But behind the success, a new reality was setting in. Sean was no longer just an inventor, he was the CEO of a rapidly growing company, and he was struggling to keep up. Running a global business was nothing like working in a salon or selling brushes from his apartment. Now, he had to deal with mass production, logistics, marketing, and international contracts. Manufacturers were pressuring him to scale up production faster. Retailers wanted bigger shipments. There were supply chain issues, inventory problems, and financial risks he had never faced before. He was hiring employees, but he still felt like he had to oversee everything, because if something went wrong, it was his name, his brand, his reputation on the line, and there was something else that kept him up at night. As the Tangle Teezer gained global success, something inevitable happened. Copycat brands started flooding the market. Cheap, imitation brushes began popping up everywhere, on Amazon and discount stores, even in big retailers. Some looked almost identical to his design. Others tried to capitalize on the trend with minor tweaks and lower prices. For Sean, it was infuriating. He had poured his life into this product, he had risked everything, and now companies that had never believed in his vision were stealing his idea and profiting from it. Some customers, unaware of the differences, were buying the fakes and then complaining when they didn't work as well. Others accused Sean of overpricing his brush, not realizing the research and development that went into creating the real thing. He had to make a decision, fight back or keep pushing forward. Instead of slowing down, Sean doubled down. He invested in legal protections, securing patents and trademarks in every major market. He exposed counterfeit products online and worked with retailers to remove them. He expanded marketing efforts, reminding customers why the real Tangle Teezer was worth the price. And he made a critical move. He launched new versions of the brush. If copycats were going to try to keep up, he would stay ahead. He introduced brushes for thick hair, curly hair, kids, and even pets. He experimented with new colors, limited editions, and travel-sized versions. He turned Tangle Teezer from a single product into a full-fledged brand. And it worked. Despite the fakes, despite the pressures, sales continued to soar. By 2021, the company was valued at over £70 million. And Sean Palfrey, once a hairstylist who had been laughed off Dragon's Den, was now running one of the most successful beauty brands in the world. But his journey wasn't over yet, because now he had one final decision to make. What came next? Sean Palfrey sat in his London office, staring out the window at a city he had once navigated as a young hairstylist. His journey had been anything but ordinary. From being laughed off Dragon's Den to building a global brand, from packing Tangle Teezers in his living room to seeing them on the shelves of Sephora, Boots, and beauty stores worldwide, Sean had done what no one believed he could. But now a new challenge was before him. What next? As the company's success grew, so did the attention from big investors and corporations. And then, in 2021, Sean received an offer, one that made him pause. A private equity firm wanted to buy a majority stake in Tangle Teezer. The offer was massive, tens of millions of pounds. It was the kind of deal that would allow him to step away, relax, and enjoy the life he had worked so hard for. No more day-to-day stress, no more constant battles with copycats. But there was something deeper at play. Tangle Teezer was his baby. He had built it from nothing. He had fought for it when no one believed in it. Could he really let go? Sean wrestled with the decision for months. He loved the company, but he also knew running a global business wasn't his true passion. He had always been a hairstylist, a creator, not a corporate executive. And so, in 2021, after 14 years of leading Tangle Teezer, Sean sold the majority of the company for £70 million. It was a bittersweet moment. On one hand, he had achieved the ultimate success, proving every doubter wrong and securing a life-changing fortune. On the other, it was the end of an era. But as he stepped away, Sean Pumphrey knew one thing. He had done it his way. He had taken an idea that was mocked, rejected, and underestimated, and turned it into one of the biggest beauty brands in the world. And he had done it alone. As he reflected on his journey, he smiled, knowing that sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong, it's proving yourself right. Today, the Tangle Teezer continues to thrive, with millions sold worldwide. New designs, new innovations, and new customers keep the brand growing. But at its heart, it remains the same: a simple idea, a relentless belief, and a refusal to quit. Just like the man who created it.